Hi everyone. So normally this week we do two lessons. We do the conventional or inorganic fertilizers and then a lesson on organic fertilizers. You should have completed both of those by now. And then in the lab we do fertilizer exercise with calculating PPMs for fertilizer application. So I'm going to go through a quick lesson on how to do that. And in this folder, you'll see there's a Word document with two sample questions. You do not have to hand this in, but you need to know how to do this for the quiz on the weekend and for your final exam. So now is the time to practice. I have provided the answer, the final value you're supposed to get with those questions to help you determine if you got it right. Okay, so how do we measure fertilizer? And you're probably all familiar with the term PPM, parts per million. That's pretty much an industry standard. I won't get into it, but in the elemental fertilizer world, we use millimoles. But today we're talking about PPMs, which essentially means you have one unit mixed into 999,999 other units. So 1 in a million, that's 1 ppm. All right. Conventionally, 1 ppm actually works out to exactly 1 milligram per liter. Okay, so that means that if we're weighing out actual amounts of fertilizer, we need to know how much we're going to weigh. So if we want to achieve ppm, so we have that milligram unit. All right, so one of the challenges we have though is that fertilizers are a mixture of lots of different ingredients. So how do we know what we're getting? It does get confusing. A lot of the horticultural world uses pre-mixed fertilizer bags. There's literally hundreds of different types of mixes for all different applications. As a standard in the industry, we refer to the nitrogen content alone when we're giving growing instructions. All right. So that means that if someone says feed at 200 ppm nitrogen, you're looking at the first number, which is the nitrogen number, and that's going to dictate how much nitrogen is being fed to the crop. Oftentimes they'll specify what fertilizer to use, or sometimes they'll say a complete one, which both of these would be a good example. But as a rule, the ppm is referring to the nitrogen content. Here's an example from Syngenta flowers on growing chrysanthemums. And if you look at the instructions, they're saying for a complete fertilizer, so a standard NPK ratio, let's say 28-20. And they're even telling you what ECs to look for, 2 to 3.5 using SME, or 2.5 to 4.5 for pour through. But down at the bottom, it says 2 to 300 ppm nitrogen for a constant liquid feed program. So there's your N telling you that it's referring to nitrogen. So let's summarize where we're at. ppm means parts per million, and it is always milligrams per liter. All right, so if you have 200 ppm, that means it's 200 milligrams per liter. All right, and as a rule, ppm often refers to nitrogen unless specified otherwise. So let's look at an example. This is 12-2-14 fertilizer. Now, the 12 and the 2 and the 14 refer to percentages, right? So there's 12% nitrogen, 2% phosphate, and 14% potassium. Let's say we want a 100 ppm solution, all right? That means we're looking for 100 ppm of nitrogen. This is a screen grab off the bag of fertilizer. And there's a chart here telling you how much to add for 25, 50, and 100 ppm nitrogen for 100 liters of water. Okay, so this is just a ratio. Bags often give you some examples to work with, even for just everyday applications. So let's say it's 100 ppm. That means you're going to add 83 grams in 100 liters. So what I want you to learn in the next few slides is how do we arrive at that number, and how do we figure out it on our own. So from that chart, we can see 100 ppm nitrogen is equal to 83 grams in 100 liters. All right. So I might ask, okay, what would 200 ppm nitrogen look like? Pretty straightforward. We're going to take that 83 grams and we're going to double it. But we're going, instead of from 100 liters, we're going down to 1 liter. So for 100 ppm, we've got 83 grams in 100 liters. So we go from 100 to 1, that's 2 decimal places. So let's go 1, 2. So that's 0.83 grams per liter. So 0.83 grams per liter for 100 ppm nitrogen. All right, so if we're doing 200 ppm, that's 2 times that. Because this is 100, we're going to 200. So 2 times 0.83, which gives us 1.66 grams per liter for 200 ppm. This is just summarizing it again. 2 times 0.83 gives us 1.66 grams, so that's 200 ppm nitrogen is 1.66 grams per liter. All right, what would it look like if we wanted 200 ppm in 1,000 liters? Okay, so let's say we're mixing up for a big tank in the field to fertilize our nursery. Okay, so there's our 1.6 grams in 1 liter times 1,000 over 1,000. So we're going to multiply the top by 1,000. So it's going to be 1,660 grams. And we're going to multiply the bottom, which is going to turn into 1,000 liters. And then we know exactly how much we're adding in 1,000 liters. 1,660 grams, which is the same as 1.66 kilograms. All right? That should actually be per 1,000 liters down there, but whatever. All right, what if the fertilizer bag doesn't tell you how many grams per liter? Well, we go right back to the beginning. We know from the label that it's 12% nitrogen, okay? 12%. That means that out of every 100 grams of fertilizer in the bag, 12 of those grams will be nitrogen, 12%, okay? So if you have 100 grams of fertilizer, there's 12 grams of nitrogen in it. So let's say we know the percentage and we want 200 ppm nitrogen. Okay, we're going to do this for 1 liter. So that means 12% of something is going to equal 200 milligrams, because that's what we want for ppm, right? We want milligrams per liter. So that's 12% of some weight is going to give us 200 milligrams. So if we take the 12 and we divide it, we divide both sides, that moves this over to here. That means 200 milligrams divided by 12% will give us our answer. Now 12% is an actual number we can work with. You have to convert that into something, right? So 12% is the same as 12 divided by 100. So that means that 200 milligrams divided by 0.12 is going to give us, there it is, 1,666.7 milligrams, which is the same as 1.6667, or you can round it up wherever you like. This is just summarizing again. 12% times 166.7 milligrams equals 200 milligrams, which means it is 200, I can't write, ppm. All right, 200 milligrams is the same as 0.2 grams. Okay, just to help you remember. So 0.2 grams per liter is 200 ppm. All right, so we're rounding to 1.7 grams here. So 1.7 grams in 1 liter is 200 ppms. What if we had 100 liters? Well, we multiply this by 100. So 1, 2, that's 170 grams. So 170 grams in 100 liters is 200 ppm. What if you want 1,000 liters? Well, that's 1,000 times this, right? So 1.7 grams times 1,000 is the same as 1.7 kilograms.